This chapter describes facility management and safety. Before we go in detail on explaining the standards and substandards, I would like to emphasize on one point. You need to understand why the standard is there, what's the objective of each standard and substandard. If you understand the objective of it and how it's related to safety and quality, it will make it easier for you to understand it and after is to implementing it. Facility management and safety consists of 4 fields, and you need to be aware of them. And it's a very important chapter in CBAHI standard. Which one was engineering or utility, security, safety, bioengineering or medical equipment. So you need to have a good background on all these 4 fields to enable to meet the requirement of CBAHI standards. The Dental Center National Standard, the first edition, consists of 9 standards which contain 53 substandards. FMS1, the center establish and support a facility management and safety program. So basically FMS1 addresses the management and leadership function within the center, and it consists of 6 substandards. FMS 1.1 reads, there is a qualified individual responsible for the facility management and safety program as a full-time or part-time employee. So the first requirement is that the management have to assign somebody within the center, part-time or full-time, to look after the FMS function within the center. Part-time or full-time depends on the size of the center, and he needs to be qualified. FMS 1.2, the safety management program includes plans for emergency management, utility system, hazardous material, fire safety, medical dental equipment, building safety and security. These are the 7 pillars of FMS. This is, you find it across all CBAHI standards, hospitals or home health care or all of the other standards, CBAHI standards, are the 7 pillars of FMS, and as we explained, needs to cover the 4 fields which we explained earlier. FMS 1.3, the safety management program includes regular inspection, testing, and maintenance of all programs operating components. So here, the substandard require that there is a program, written program, to show that all of the 7 plans in 1.2 are being tested, inspected, and checked, and they all are documented. FMS 1.4, the center maintains adequate and complete documentation for the facility management safety program. So now 1.4 is related to 1.2 and 1.3. You need to document all the findings, the plans, how you want to do the maintenance, and all of that have to be documented and followed up. So you need to make sure everything is documented. FMS 1.5, data related to safety concerns are reviewed and analyzed with the proper action to prevent reoccurrence. So basically you need to have an action plan whenever you have a findings on the inspection. Of course, FMS 1 is about management, so that means the management is required to follow all the findings and make sure there's an action plan and how do you stop it from reoccurring or rehappening. FMS 1.6, all staff including new hires, locum, and trainees receive education on the program. This education is repeated annually as relevant. So basically, any new joiners to the dental center needs to have the orientation or the basic training, the beginning on his employment. Plus, you need to have it in a yearly that are refreshing. Depends on the size. You need to refresh all employees about the safety and the FMS program as a whole. This slide explains the function of management toward FMS. It requires 10 functions to do from the leadership: planning, organization, budgeting, building culture, continuous training, safe infrastructure, oversight, motivation, qualified workforce, and communication. All need to be addressed by the leadership for the FMS. This is the main objective of the first standard. So this need to be documented, and the management or the leadership has a systematic way of addressing all of these 10 functions, write them, and see how the progress is being done through them. So FMS1 also addresses the responsibility of facility management on the center. So you need to decide, first of all, the size. Do you need a full-time or a part-time? If it's a small size, you need a part-time. If it's a big size center, you need to have a full-time person responsible on facility management. He needs to be qualified on the background. And here is that we have the 4 backgrounds. We don't mind any one of them: security, engineering, bioengineering, or safety. But he has to be diversified on all the 4 responsibility, and he has education and training on all of the 4 fields. Experience is important, so there is a minimum experience, 2 years minimum experience. That's recommended by us, that he has 2 years experience if we want to assign him for FMS. Training is required in all of the 4 fields. Full-time or part-time, as we said, depends on the size of the center. The main character of the safety or the FMS officer, he needs to be a positive, because always change needs to have a positive from the safety officer and from the FMS officer, and needs persistence, because it's very difficult, especially under the financial constraints for the management, to give you all what you are asking. So all FMS officers need to be persistent, requiring them and alerting the management of the need of that and giving the importance of it. That's always a very good character on the facility management officer. I would like to add a small clarification about the part-time. We don't mean part-time means somebody comes certain hours only to do FMS. It also could be a person within the center who can do 2 jobs. For example, the lab officer can do facility management officer if the center is small. So all of that can be done. So part-time refers is not only from outside, could be from inside, but he can do 2 jobs at the same time. This slide shows you the 7 pillars of FMS generally in all healthcare. Whatever it's a hospital, medical center, you need to have these 7 plans: facility safety, security, life and fire safety, emergency preparedness plans, internal and external, hazardous material and waste disposals, medical equipment, and utility. So the center management needs to have these 7 plans. We don't mind if they are combined in one plan or they are separate plan, but at least we need to see from the center that he has an objective on these plans. And in the next slide, we'll show you how you make a good plan, facility management plan, so you can meet the requirement of CBAHI. When you do the 7 FMS plans, you need to consider 5 major components of any facility management plan. It need to be there on it. The plans need to be specific, so you need to have a very direct objective, clear objectives. It needs to be measurable, so you can measure the progress on these plans. It needs to be achievable, so that the staff can do their best to achieve it. It has to be realistic, not out of the wild. It needs to be realistic, and needs to be time bound. So you need to say this plan needs to be done in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. We don't mind, at least you have it. So each one of these 7 plans, and let me give you an example. If you want to do a facility management utility plan, you said, okay, we want to reduce the breakdowns or faults in our equipment within 1 year, for example, from 1,000 to 800 faults. So, okay, now you have a specific objective, measurable objective, achievable objective, realistic, and you said within 1 year. Now the second question is how you want to do it. You need to detail, are you going to improve the preventive maintenance, or you want to buy new machines, or you want to increase your spare part stock. So all of that needs to be addressed and put on the plan, and then your staff needs to work to achieve this plan. FMS 1.7 require education. What do we mean by education? We need 3 levels of education. Individual training, so you can train your staff, for example, how to use an extinguisher, what's the meaning of baths, and all of that. Then the second level is the team training. For example, one team in the clinic or in the lab or whatever, they need to work together. For example, if they have a major issue, such as a violence people or a small fire, they need to work together to eliminate that danger. And the third level is the training on the center itself as a total, what they need to do if there's a major disaster, internal or external. They need to work all of them together to minimize the risk and the safety of all the staff and the materials. So FMS2 reads, the interdisciplinary rounds are scheduled and conducted to ensure safety. So FMS2 is about the rounds and the inspection of the center. FMS 2.1, the center establishes an interdisciplinary team for overseeing and monitoring the facility management and safety program. So here the management of the center is required to compile a team from different departments to inspect the center and document all of the findings. FMS 2.2, a facility inspection round is conducted at least 4 times per year by the interdisciplinary team. So here this substandard requires 4 reports, that means every quarter, and what is their findings. FMS 2.3, the resulting information is documented and used for corrective actions, planning and budgeting for long facility upgrading and replacements. So here is the findings, whatever it's a defects or default or any problems have to be documented, and the management have to have an action plan on how to resolve them and how to improve the different parts of the center. So FMS2 has 3 parts on it. You need an interdisciplinary team, that's a formation. After the formation of the team has to conduct for inspection or surveying of the center. And the output of these surveyors or surveying or inspection have to be addressed and resolved. And this is all have to be documented. So the key word here is overseeing and monitoring. So there is a responsibility for the team. Inspection, testing, and maintenance. So it's not only about going around and looking. No, you need to check, inspect, check the records, maintenance records, the drills, and everything. And you need to make sure that the team is checking everything, not only having around, walking around. No, you need to check the records, all of that. Reviewed and analyzed, so all the output have to be reviewed and analyzed, and here by management, and proper action to prevent reoccurrence. This is all, that's the importance of relating facility management to quality and safety, is we want to prevent all these accidents, and if there is any risk of any accident, we need to prevent it and eliminate it and mitigate it before it happens. And of course, documentation. If it's all documented, means not being done. So everything have to be documented. So anybody goes even from CBAHI or from outside, he knows what exactly happened and how the center is doing his job properly. So FMS2 is about 3 things. You need to have interdisciplinary team formation, and after the formation of the team, the FMS interdisciplinary team, you need to conduct these 4 visits quarterly, and you have to document what's your findings, and the thing is you need to resolve what's their findings. So the management is required to follow up and analyze it. So the keywords here on FMS2 is overseeing and monitoring, so that's by management. And the team need to inspect, testing, and maintenance. So it's not only walk around, you need to inspect the records, for example, PPM record, drills, the training and everything. They need to inspect it, testing it, and make sure that everything is running as supposed to be. Then reviewed and analyzed, so the output of these rounds have to be by management to reviewed and analyzed, and proper action to prevent reoccurrence. The key thing here is we need to relate FMS2 to safety and quality. And the main thing is we want to prevent accidents and minimize risk before it happens. That's the whole idea of the interdisciplinary team and the rounds. And of course, documentation is very important because if you have documented it, so you can follow it and you make sure you eliminate any risk in the future, and there is no oversight between the different departments. So FMS, the center's environment is safe for patients, visitors, and staff. So basically, FMS 3 is about safety, general safety of the center. 3.1, the leaders ensure that the building and its services comply with the national standards, environmental protection standards, laws and regulation, and recommendation of professional organization. So this is very important that you make sure your centers comply with the different requirement of the government, the law of the land, we say. And I have special slides about these standards and after this slide. The 3.2, the building and surroundings are hazardous free, such as potentially loose, objective, exposed outlets or wiring, slippery floors, sharp ends, holes in the ground, or any others. As we know, the centers has many visitors, patients, staff from different ages, could be kids, children, old people. So you may need to make sure that the center is safe. There's no exposed wiring, the floor is smooth, there is no sharp ends, so anything risk to the patients or the visitors need to be eliminated and make sure there is no such like holes or anything like that. FMS 3.3, periodic preventive maintenance, PPM, and corrective maintenance are done for all the electrical and mechanical systems. So you need to ensure, as you know now, the electrical and mechanical systems such as conditioning or the power is essential for the center. So you make sure it's reliable and it's been the cleaning and all that has been done, so you have the right atmosphere for the operation of the center. 3.4, the maintenance records are kept for electrical and mechanical systems, including periodical preventive maintenance, the PPM. So here is a requirement that any maintenance you are doing, whether it's a PPM or corrective maintenance, it needs to have a record. So make sure that you are doing it as per the book. 3.5, the center has adequate parking space, waiting areas, and toilets. So as you know, some of the centers are very busy. So there should be a relationship between the turnover of the people on the clinics and the waiting area and the parking. So we don't accept people are standing waiting for a seat to be free in the waiting area, for example. That's not acceptable. So make sure that the smooth, starting from the entrance, when the patient or the visitor coming, the reception, and make sure the waiting areas and even the parking before even they enter. We make sure all of these are compatible or related to the size of the center. 3.6, the center implements measures to ensure the safety of patients and staff during construction, renovation, and demolition. So basically, whenever you are doing any changes on the center, you make sure it's fully isolated from the other operating parts of the center, so that no dust or noise or is being affecting the other patients or the other clinics. 3.7, the center implements measures to ensure the safe use lasers in dental procedures and treatment. Measures include, but not limited to, using warning signs, protective eye goggles, and removing reflective surfaces. So this is a basic requirement for any lasers. You make sure that the laser room, we will have a special slide for it. What's the needs, because you don't want anything reflected, so reflect the laser. Make sure the goggles are there for both the patient, the nurse, and the doctors. So this need to be a complete safety atmosphere for using lasers. So 3.1 requires the center to comply with the national standard laws and regulations. So this is some governmental entities that you need to make sure you are complying with, such as first Ministry of Health, the CBAHI, Civil Defense, Saudi FDA, the Engineering Council, the MOMRA, Ministry of Rural Affairs, Municipality and Rural Affairs, and of course Saudi Building Code. This is very important. You make sure you'll be aware that your center comply with all of these. And you know, some of there's changes on the regulations, so you need also to be updated with the changes on all of that, and you need to make sure you are complying with them. This is not an easy. You need to make sure you follow up all the governmental regulation, and you make sure your center is complying with it. here I'm going to give two examples of the required local regulation. For example, we have the first one about MOMRA, Ministry of Municipal and Rural Affairs. They have standards for the parking for PHC and dental clinics, all the dental clinics and centers. For example, you need one parking slot for every 100 square meter, 4 parking slots for each clinic. So this is a requirement, and for that you need to meet it. Plus you need 5% for handicap or 2 minimum for the parking. Also another standard is the ramps, okay, and that we see a lot. The ramps is you need a 12-meter ramp for every 1 meter height. That's a very important, that's so to be comfortable for the wheelchair users and everything. So please make sure you are fitting all these standards. So on 3.3 and 3.4, it's talking about the planned preventive maintenance and corrective maintenance. So there is one fact we need to emphasize here, why this 3.3 and 3.4 is important. There is a relationship between preventive maintenance, corrective maintenance, and accident. And that's very important. So whenever you have a low level of ppm, you will have a higher level, of course, of corrective maintenance. And unfortunately, that will also increase your accidents. This is an established correlation between ppm, cm, and accident. And vice versa, if you have a good ppm, you will have less corrective maintenance and you will have lower accidents. So this is why 3.3 and 3.4 are very important. So whenever you have a good ppm, you will have a lower corrective maintenance and you will have less and less accidents. Also referring to FMS 3.3 and 3.4, there is a relationship between the cost of ppm and corrective maintenance, and this is very important for the management of the centers. Whenever you are doing a preventive maintenance, in the beginning it's higher cost, but on the long run it will reduce your total cost. This is not happening in the corrective cost. The corrective cost, the corrective maintenance cost, it will start with 0, you're just neglecting it, but after time you need to replace the machines and everything, and your cost will be higher. So there is an optimum point which is you need to achieve for you to have an equal balance between preventive maintenance and corrective maintenance. A very repeated question we received always is how do I schedule preventive maintenance? How to do it is, first thing, you need to list all of the equipment you have, medical equipment, utility machines, all of the equipment you have in the center. You list them all on one side, and then you refer back to the manufacturer recommendation, and of course the codes and standards, the engineering codes and standards, and you see and you schedule it across the year. So when you schedule all of them, so you see, for example, you have air conditioning, how many AC units you have, okay, how many they need, for example, bi-weekly maintenance, weekly maintenance, quarterly, then you schedule them across all the year. You make sure they don't schedule 2 units or 3 units in the same day. You schedule them on different days so you don't handle the problem of having 2 units at the same time out of order. So that's why how we do ppm. Plus a very important notation, you do the winter machines, for example the heating, you do it on summer, the ppm, and the summer machine like the air conditioning, you do it at the winter, you do the ppm, the proper ppm. That's why you can avoid the discomfort or the problem giving to your staff and patients. You don't do a maintenance on the summer or the air conditioning in the summer, and everybody will feel uncomfortable. Substandard 3.7 talks about the laser safety on the dental centers, and here is a good slide to show you the different mechanism to ensure the safety of laser, from the entrance and the warning lights inside the clinic itself. So this is, and the types of laser is being used. So this is a very nice slide to show you the different requirement of a laser treatment room. So FMS 4 is about fire prevention and fire safety. It reads, the leaders develop and monitor the implementation of a fire prevention program. So it's all about fire safety and fire prevention. 4.1, staff are trained regarding fire drills and evacuation plans at least annually, and training records are kept in staff personal files. So the first part of the fire prevention is you training your staff. And we will go in detail in the slides, after the slides, on how we will do the training, what's the requirements, and the concept behind the whole standard. 4.2, egress routes, corridors, and fire escapes are marked with exit signs and are free from obstacles. So you need to make sure that there is no blockage or closing any routes for fire. So if there is any unfortunate fire, you need to make sure you evacuate on time, and all the evacuation paths are free from any obstacles. 4.3, fire extinguishers are tested and distributed in the center according to the type of extinguisher required in each area. So the 4.3 is talking about suppression. Now he's introducing the fire extinguishers. This is the manual way of extinguishing fire, and that's the first step. 4.4, fire systems, including fire alarm and fire prevention and protection equipment, are in place and functioning. He's talking here about the fire detection, the fire systems, and the fire alarm is both the fire suppression and fire detection is the systems, both are working and functioning on the center. 4.5, the fire alarm system is maintained and tested, and all maintenance records are maintained. Here's a requirement that your fire alarm system, the fire detection system, is working, tested, no faults, no alarms whatsoever, and we do check the readiness of your system. 4.6, a no smoking policy is approved and enforced. Of course, that's across all the healthcare facilities. The smoking is totally banned and only in special required areas. 4.3, no smoking signs are posted and at all entrances and in the waiting areas. So smoking is one of the major contributor of fires within the healthcare. That's why we need to stress this point. This slide is a very important slide to understand the fire prevention and fire safety program in any healthcare facility, including the dental centers. It consists of 4 levels, and the first level is the prevention, and this is the most important. You don't want to have fires in the beginning, and all your staff and all your management should stress that you don't need to start a fire to prevention. So this should be done in 70% of your effort to be concentrated on the prevention. The second level is detection. So here we are assuming you failed on prevention and the fire is already started. Then you need to detect it as soon as possible. That's why your fire alarm system should be functioning 100% and covering all the facility. And that's why this means your staff knows there's a fire, starting of a fire, and they can contain it as soon as possible. If you fail to have detection and contain it on time, means you're going to the next level. Suppression means if you have a sprinkler system, then you have to, the system should be triggers, and the system should be started, especially if it's out of the working hours and things like that. Your suppression system should take care of any fire happens. And the last is the evacuation. If unfortunately all these 3 stages you already failed on them, means you need to evacuate. Your staff needs to know how to evacuate, where to evacuate, what's the process, how to transfer the patients. So this is all needs to be done, so your staff is aware of exactly what happened. This is the 4 stages of fire safety echelon, which is, I think you should be well aware of it. Fire alarm or fire detection system, it comes in 2 types, conventional system or addressable systems. Both are acceptable by the Saudi Building Code and by CBAHI. If it's an old system, usually you should have conventional system. Then if you're a new hospital, new clinic, you could have addressable system, which you can identify where is the fire. And we do prefer the addressable system, but both the systems are acceptable for us. You need to make sure that the system is working, the system covering all the center, all the rooms and the storage rooms and everywhere, and there is a PPM done regularly on the system. FMS 4.3 talks about the fire extinguishers. So basically we have 4 types of fire extinguishers: the water, the foam, the powder, and the carbon dioxide. And each type is used for different type of fire. Your staff should be aware of it. They need to identify each type of extinguishers and how to use them and where to use them. So this is part of the education for the center's staff. FMS 4.1 requires training for staff. So what are they trained on? They should be trained on evacuation drills, the race, rescue alarm, contain fire extinguisher, and evacuate. Also, they need to be educated or trained on PASS, the usage of the fire extinguisher, how to use it, the pull the pin, aim, squeeze, sweep. And they will be asked through the CBAHI surveyors on how to use them, when to use them, which kind of extinguishers. So this is very important on the training sessions for your staff. 4.2 talks about fire routes and egress routes. So this is very important also to educate your staff about it, the type of egress routes. So this is example of the requirement of the exit routes and exit doors, fire doors. What's the requirement? Plus you need to have the emergency evacuation plan, and the assembly all are properly located and the staff are aware of it at all time. This size for the fire prevention shows the different location and the height and the proper height of the fire extinguisher, the exit signs and everything. So you need to make sure that's comply with the Saudi Building Code and the fire prevention requirements. FMS 5, the center is secured and protects its users. So FMS 5 is about security on the center, and it consists of 6 substandards. 5.1 reads, sufficient trained security personnel are available in the center according to its size and design complexity. So here is a new requirement that all dental centers have to have a security personnel, and so they start from 1 up to it depends on the size of the center. 5.2 requires security personnel or security system restrict access to sensitive and high risk areas. So here is a requirement that the dental center has different zones. Some zones are open for everybody, but there's different zones, like for the sterilization or cleaning, or if there is an operation side of it, you need to have a restriction, and either by personnel or by system. 5.3 is the patient privacy is respected. So here's a requirement to protect the patient's privacy, including his name, his information, and it's not open to everybody to read and go inside it. 5.4, the center equipment and data are secured. So this is a requirement to protect the center's equipment during hours and after hours, by the way, and to make sure nothing is missing. 5.5, the patient and staff files are accessible only by authorized persons. So you don't leave files of both staff and patient unattended or open for anybody to check them or read them. 5.6, all staff were properly displayed identification badges. So here are very important that you need to make sure that anybody coming into the center, he can identify the center staff from non-staff, and he differentiate them, so there is no miscommunication happens on this side. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this session, we need to understand the principle or the concept behind each standard and substandards. And for FMS 5, the standard stemmed from the Patient Rights Bill. And if you can see, the third one, privacy and confidentiality, and number 4, protection and safety. So these 3 and 4 of the Patient Rights Bill are covered by FMS 5, and that's why it's to stress the importance of it. So now 5.1 requires you to have a security officers or security personnel. So you need to have them properly dressed, and they know exactly what's their mission, what they're doing, who to restrict. So they need to identify the requirement, what they do for unauthorized persons, smoking, violence. So they need to be trained and well aware of the operation of the center. 5.6 requires all staff to wear identification badges, and these badges should be well displayed. And this is examples of wrong and right way of wearing or putting the identification badge. We do look at the proper way so we can identify them easily. FMS 6 reads, the center has an updated plan for the proper installation, inspection, testing, and maintenance of medical dental equipment. So FMS 6 is about the medical equipment and bioengineering, and it has 6 substandards. 6.1 says an updated inventory list is available of all medical and dental equipment. So basically, you need to have full control of your all medical and dental equipment. Anything goes inside have to be recorded and have to be added to your inventory. Anything left the center needs also to be marked as it's being removed from the center. 6.2, medical equipment with special installation requirements, including special ventilation or room modification, is installed with accordance with the manufacturer recommendation and safety requirements. Again, if you have any dental chair or X-ray machine or panorama or anything, needs to be installed properly. 6.3, dental air compressor and vacuum pumps are housed in a well ventilated and secured area. Dental compressor is a medical air, so it needs to be well housed and in a ventilated area so that you minimize the risk of getting it out of order or something like that. 6.4, medical and dental equipment is periodically maintained by qualified staff in accordance with the manufacturer recommendation. So all your medical equipment need to be maintained, BPM maintained regularly by qualified people. 6.5, all defective medical equipment is labeled accordingly. So a requirement here, if you have any malfunction or defective equipment, need to be tagged. So the next staff, when he see it, he knows about it. We don't know to reuse it on a different patient and it has a defective operation on it. 6.6, medical equipment is discontinued according to clear policy, including lifespan, beyond economical repair, and vendor or governmental recalls. Equipment is disposed as per governmental rules and regulation. So this is generally in all medical and healthcare facilities. Whenever you have a medical equipment, you need to, first of all, when you will take it out of service, how you will take it out of service, and how you will dispose of it. This is a very important rule in all the medical equipments. So you will have a good record of where you want to remove it from service and to where. This slide shows you the lifespan of any medical equipment or dental equipment within the center. We need to, first of all, the moment it's being purchased from the supplier, the receiving department, you need to start to have a tracking number with a certain medical equipment number within the center. It goes to the bioengineering, pre-issue check, make sure it's working fine after transportation. Then it's send this to the different department or users. And the lifespan of any medical equipment, it will go back and forth with the maintenance and bioengineering. So that's all need to be recorded. And the end of the lifetime of the lifespan of the machine or the equipment needs to be rejected, taken out of service. This needs to be a clear policy, and then how you want to reject it and how you want to get rid of it. So all of that needs to be tracked well, so there's no confusion happen at any moment. This slide shows 3 things about the medical equipment and dental equipment. The first one is the tagging. You need to make sure you mark each medical equipment or dental equipment with the number so you can trace it. The second is the electrical analyzer. So you need to make sure you're doing a ppm or including the data because it's being used directly on patients. So you need to have the electrical analyzing of all machine and you assure the safety of the machine. And the last one is whenever you have a defective machine or equipment, you need to have a warning that do not use this equipment, so the next staff does not mistakenly using it on another patient. FMS also talks about ventilation. So this is a very important slide to show you the different requirement of ventilation within different areas of the medical health facilities in general. And you need to take in your account the load of the machines and the people within that services, including the dental clinic, the lab, and any procedures happen within the dental center. FMS 7 reads the center has an emergency plan in case of emergencies. So FMS 7 about the emergency planning and the readiness of your center. It consists of 7 substandards. 7.1 says the center's emergency plan details how to respond to different emergencies and how to minimize the risk in the center. So basically he's asking to put different scenarios, and if there's an emergency, we have 2 types, internal or external emergencies, so you need to be prepared for both. 7.2 says the emergency plan defines the staff roles in different emergencies cases, so you need to make sure the role of each staff, what he should do during emergencies. This is part of the preparedness. 7.3, the emergency plan includes contact persons and authorities. So emergencies happens in all time, so you need to be prepared to call people if it happens in after working hours or at night or in the different shifts. So you'll have to be prepared with the contact persons and authorities. 7.4, the emergency plan identifies the nearest healthcare facility, and staff know where to refer patients during emergency if needed. So if there is an unfortunate something happen within the center and you need to clear or send some patients, so you need to where you want to send them, you have an agreement or some kind of relationship with the nearest healthcare, and there's some kind of channels of discussion how you will transfer them immediately. 7.5, the center has an alternative power and water sources as part of its emergency preparedness. So if there is any shortage of water or power, you need the center to have an emergency, for example, generator or another source from different sources. And the same thing for the water. If you have a backup water or tanking services, you need to be prepared for that. 7.6, staff are trained annually on the emergency drills. So this is a refreshing. So you give your staff how to do an emergency drills, and you make sure they refresh every year on the procedure of these drills. 7.7, emergency plan is documented, evaluated annually, and updated as needed. So you need to have documented of what you did in training, documenting. So usually the centers give different scenarios each year, and they try to document what's the evaluation of it. This slide shows the 4 stages of disaster management planning. The first stage is mitigation. You need to mitigate the risks. The second one is preparedness. The third one is response, and the fourth one is recovery and go back to the business as usual. So this is the 4 stages of the disaster management planning. All your staff and your management should be aware of it, and how do you mitigate these disasters, how do you prepare for them, how do you respond and to recover, and how to minimize the effect of these disasters. Disaster usually considered in 2 types, internal disaster and external disaster. Internal disaster, something happened to your center and you need to evacuate. So you need to be prepared this. First of all, how to evacuate and where to evacuate and how to transfer. This is this is the purpose of the drills, internal drills. On the other hand, the external disaster, something happened outside your center and suddenly you have influx of patients coming to your center, and how do you deal with it? It will be like a staging. You try to stabilize and then you try to send it to the referral hospitals or to the main receiving hospitals. This slide shows you the MOH identified emergency codes. And out of these 12 codes, 9 of them are FMS codes, plus 3 medical codes. Your staff should be aware of them, trained on them, and now we have a new version of these codes also, and they need to be updated accordingly. FMS 8, the center develops a hazardous material, hazmat, and waste disposal plan. So FMS is about hazmat. How do you deal with hazmat material within the center? It consists of 6 substandards. The first one is 8.1. The center keeps an updated register of all hazardous material in the center along with their safety data sheets. So here a requirement that you need to have a register or a book of all the hazardous material within the center, including the lab, the pharmacy if you have, all the clinics, and if the maintenance and all the functions of the center. 8.2, staff are trained in dealing with available hazardous material and waste disposal. So it's also required that the staff is aware of the hazardous material and how to do work around them. 8.3, the center controls and reduces the risk associated with the use of hazardous material and waste. So you need to have control and to try to minimize the hazardous material usage within the center. 8.4, hazardous material are stored, handled, transported, used, and disposed as per the SDS, the safety data sheet. So you need to follow the manufacturer recommendation, SDS, in all your work with the hazardous material. 8.5, waste disposal is done in an effective manner within the facility or through an authorized contractor. So as you know, most of the medical operation and dental operation, there's an outcome of medical waste. So you need to get rid of them, medical waste or non-medical, on a professional way with the contracting and specialized contractors. 8.6, fire-rated cabinets are used for flammable hazardous material. Again, this is for protection. As you know, fire-rated cabinets used for flammable hazardous material need to have a special kind of cabinets to house these material. This slide shows you the life cycle of hazardous material from the moment the supplier supplied it to the center, the receiving, the storage, the user department, then the waste. So this have to be controlled and registered in all the movement of any hazardous material within the center. And it needs to be following the SDS on each material used. So about hazardous material, how do we classify hazardous material? There's 2 famous ways of classifying hazardous material. One of them, they call it the NFPA diamonds, which is as you have it now on the slide. Basically, there is 3 main health concern: health, flammability, and reactivity. And they are classified between 0 and 4. 0 is the least, 4 is the highest. So this is one way of classification which has been used, called the NFPA diamond. And whenever you see this diamond in any material, you can immediately find out the dangerous or the hazardous degree of the material used on it. This is an example of a hazardous material according to the NFPA diamond classification. It's the methanol. It shows you that the health hazard is 1, so it's slightly high. The fire hazard is 3, so it's very high hazard. Reactivity is 0, so there's no active reactivity with other materials. And specific hazards, there is no specific hazards, and tells you how to use it and treat it. This is one like a SDS for the methanol. A new way of classifying hazardous material is the GHS, Globally Harmonized System, which is sponsored by the United Nations and adopted by most of the countries, including Saudi Arabia and the United States. Basically, it consists of 9 pictograms. They call them pictograms to indicate the different hazards associated with materials, such as the exclamation mark or the corrosion. So this needs a detailed knowledge of it. I do recommend people go deeply on this classification, because it's the new trend in classifying hazardous materials. The GHS did not only identify the 9 different types of hazardous material, but also specifies the safety data sheet and gave them in 16 different sections. So it's also standardized the SDS, unlike the other systems. So the SDS is now regulated, including the labeling on the materials and the safety data sheets. All of them are now recognized on a certain way of doing it, which will be easier for people to understand them and to communicate between them. FMS 9, the center has a policy and procedure for the safe use of various types of compressed gases. So FMS 9 is about the medical gas cylinders or piped medical gases. It consists of 5 substandards. Number 9.1, the medical gas policy highlights the use of cylinders transporters. So 9.1 regulates how do you transfer the cylinders within the center to the center and from the center. 9.2, the policy emphasizes secure storage of the cylinders in well-ventilated areas. So here you need to follow where you want to store these cylinders and make sure there is no risk associated with them. 9.3, the policy describes how to secure the cylinders by positioning upright against the wall and securing it by a chain or inside the special containers. This emphasizes that there is two risks within the cylinders of falling of the cylinders. Number one, if it's fallen on a patient or the staff, it will hurt them. And the second one, if they fall and the valve broken, they'll be like a rocket. So that's why we need to make sure they are secured and not falling on the floor. 9.4 is the policy ensures the timely replacement of empty cylinders and the availability of backup systems. So basically, we don't want to run out of cylinders. 9.5, centers equipped with piped medical systems follow the regulatory bodies testing and safety requirements. Basically, if you have a big center and you have a piped medical gases, dental gases, you need to have it regulated, and basically Saudi Arabia follows the HTM 2022 and NFPA 99. So you need to make sure that is being followed. This slide shows two problems with the cylinders. Number one, transporting the cylinders in a normal pickup. This is not the right way. It needs to be secured. Each one of them is secured, even in transportation. The second one is the cylinders are left unchained and they can fall down anytime. This is a very dangerous practice. Piped medical gases, usually we have 4 types of piped medical gases: the medical air, oxygen, vacuum, and nitrous oxide. If it's a big center, maybe we'll use 2 or 3 or 4 of them, all of them. And there's different sources of them. Oxygen has either cylinders or liquid oxygen tank, or something we call BSA, the generator of oxygen. If it's a medical air, it's either cylinders or compressors. For vacuum, it's the vacuum pumps. And if it's nitrous oxide, surely it will be cylinders. We need to make sure that from the source up to the end outlets, all are safe, well protected, and follow the regulation of the NFPA or the HTM.